Alive Again family, welcome back to the Bible in a Year read through. Today we are reading through Leviticus 9 through 12 and I brought my helper with me.
Hi.
Leviticus is a book of laws that was given to the priests. Remember, Aaron and his sons were given the responsibility of representing the people of Israel. So let's just review, before we move forward, some of these sacrifices and offerings, because there are so many and they list them off so quickly that they can become very overwhelming and confusing. So we've already gone through 5 major types of offerings in Leviticus, and then we see some of these offerings that fall into subcategories. So first we're going to talk about the 5 major categories and how they are split into 2 different parts. There are offerings of sorry God and offerings that say thank you God. So let's first talk about the offerings of sorry God. So these 3 offerings are a way to say sorry to God. They are the burnt offering, which is a voluntary offering, which we saw that Aaron and his sons went through as they were being consecrated as priests. This is where you would burn up the whole animal. The entire animal would be consumed to represent that our entire sin had been atoned for. This was a way to be accepted into God's presence and his grace. This kind of offering made fellowship with God possible. And this was usually given paired with the peace or grain offering, which we will talk about later. So then next we have the sin offering. Whoops, I didn't know I did that. This was offered for unintentional sins. This was also offered as purification for ceremonial uncleanness. Got it that time. Uncleanliness. Synonyms. All right. And this was also a way that made continuous fellowship possible, because there are many times that we sin and we don't realize we do something that we don't realize is against God's will for us. So this was a way of just saying, okay, whoops, didn't know I did that. Let me just cover all my bases. And this made fellowship with God continuously possible in the tabernacle. Then we have our guilt offering. And this was, you caught me. This was an offering for the things that you did realize that you did. And this was a way for the person to see past their sin and to see to the damage that they had done. This was a way to repair your relationship with God and to also pay back any wrongdoing you had done, plus interest. So you would return anything that had been lost or stolen or broken, and you would give back even more than that thing. So these were the 3 offerings to tell God you were sorry: burnt offering, sin offering, and guilt offering. Then we have 2 offerings that would tell God, thank you. Other way. So these are our thanks God. Go ahead. So this is, sorry, I just pooped your nose. These are our thanks offerings. First, we have our grain offering, which is a response of praise and gratitude to God. This would be usually a handful of flour and oil and burned a handful of it, and then the rest would be given to the priest to eat. You could also put an additional drink offering on top of the grain offering to symbolize joy. Then we have our fellowship or peace offering. There were a few different things in this category, but these were voluntary offerings. The first one would be a thank offering, which is when God would bless you unexpectedly and you just wanted to say thank you. Then you would have a wave offering, which we actually saw one of those, which is when you would take your offering and you would literally wave it in front of the Lord and say, this is for you. Thank you, God. I'm so grateful. We praise you, which is why I think it's really cool that we raise our hands in worship and we just say, Lord, I give this time to you, right? So just keep that in mind on Sunday, huh? And then we have a free will offering, which is a voluntary offering just to worship the Lord, just to say thank you, we love you, we are so grateful. And then there was a votive offering, which was another free will offering, which is usually symbolized with a fulfillment of vows. So just to review, we have sorry and thank you. The sorry, we have a burnt offering, a sin offering, and a guilt offering for intentional and unintentional sins and to keep fellowship and restoration with God. Then we have the thanks offering, which is grain offering and peace or fellowship offering. And the beauty of this, these are all now fulfilled through the sacrifice of Jesus Christ. But for Leviticus purposes, we're going to continue talking about them. So then we come across a list of things that are clean and unclean. And it seemed like everything was unclean, except for grasshoppers. Apparently you can eat grasshoppers without any consequence, which is strange to me, but that's okay. There were different foods or bodily fluids that you could not come in contact with or eat, or else you would become ceremonially unclean. Now, it wasn't a sin to be ceremonially unclean, but it was sinful to walk into the presence of God being unclean without making the proper sacrifices to atone for that sin or that impurity. Because sin is associated with death, while God in his holiness is the very essence of life, which is why these offerings are so important. Being a priest was a heavy responsibility. They not only represented God to the people, but they represented the people to God. They were the mediator between God and the Israelites. And this is why the tabernacle was such an important figure. It was the very place that God dwelled. And God is a holy God, which means he is above and set apart from all. And the space around him had to be holy and set apart, which is the significance of the most holy place inside the tabernacle. And the priests, being the mediators, were the only ones permitted to go inside of that holy place, but only after going through a plethora of different cleansing rituals. Why was this necessary? Because like we said before, God is holy, and the space around him must be holy and respected. So therefore, the priests must also set themselves apart and put on holiness through the ritual sacrifices in order to enter the presence of God. In chapter 10, Aaron's sons were literally struck dead because they did not abide by the proper regulations laid out in God's instructions. They offered incense with unauthorized fire, which was contrary to what the Lord had commanded. And that was the end of them. God's holiness is not something to take lightly. Being set apart from the things of this world is a serious matter, and we should really strive to not only understand how holy of a God that we have, because the fear of the Lord is the beginning of understanding and wisdom and knowledge, but to try to be set apart in the life that we lead. We should strive every day to put off our sin nature and to pick up God's righteousness. We should strive every day to live a life worthy of the calling that God has placed upon us, and to offer ourselves as a living sacrifice. Because now we are the representatives of Christ. We are the ones who step into the gap between God and the world that doesn't know him. And we may not have to slaughter a goat anymore, but living a life like this can be a struggle, and it gets messy. But I know that I would rather go through a little bit of an uncomfortable refining process to experience the fullness and the glory of God than to live a life completely without him. I hope this has given you some insight into Leviticus. I hope it kind of diminishes the confusion, because it's a long, confusing chapter. So I hope that this has kind of enlightened you, given you wisdom, and has been helpful for you to move forward into the Leviticus, because this is the book that loses everybody. So stick with it. Don't give up. You're doing great. We love you. We're so proud of you. We'll see you tomorrow.